Alright, welcome to Trident Technical College Avionics Troubleshooting, Radios 101. We're preparing for our practical here. We're going to be troubleshooting our AM, FM radios. Your problem's either going to be in the AM side or the FM side, so you want to make sure that you know how your radio works. Hopefully you've completed it by now. One of the things going into this troubleshooting, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have your schematic out. Now you're going to notice that I've taken my schematic and I've actually taken a red line and I've colored in from where the power comes in. You need to make sure that you know how your switch works. Make sure you're comfortable with that. You're going to see I've come through my switch, and when it's AM, I've got a red line that takes me through my AM and shows me where I get my voltage feeds for the AM. You're going to see how this comes in handy to quickly troubleshoot my radios. And I did the same thing from AM, so when you switch to AM, I can see where my voltage comes here. Now, you can preliminary, since you're building your radio, you can go in and write down the voltage values that you should have at a working radio, which is always kind of nice to do with your schematic. Number two, starting out, I've also made a list. Going in, I'll check out my tech data, and I know for AM that I'm gonna put in a frequency of 455, 1 volts peak to peak, modulation of 400 hertz, and an 80% deviation. So I took down these notes that I need in order to properly troubleshoot with, to save me a bit of time, because you're probably going to have about 15 minutes to figure out what's wrong with this radio. First, I want to kind of go into, we've got our O-scope, signal generator, and my multimeter. So we're going to go in. First of all, this is a good radio, so I'm going to show you with a good radio. We're going to come in. I'm going to set up. I'm going to grab my leads here, my trusty power supply. First thing you're going to do, that you always want to do before you test anything, make sure that you set up your multimeter. And I got my multimeter out here. I'm going to turn my voltage, make sure I'm set. So I'm at 9 volts DC. That's where I want to be. So now, turn my power off before I plug in. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up to my radio. Put my 9 volts DC there. Alright. So now I've got power on the radio, so one of the first things I can do, I can actually test the radio and see whether it works, whether or not I need to fix it. Well, it's good. I'm getting some noise and static too here without actually trying to tune this too much. That's actually my FM. Put my antenna up, FM works. Switch it over to AM. We can see that the AM works as well. Now, so this radio, I'd pretty much call it good from the get-go, other than maybe it needs a little bit of tuning. But what I want to show with this radio is I want to show you how to actually trace your signal through a radio and what you should see on a good radio. Now, I've got this little bitty ground test point here at TP15, which everybody should be very familiar with. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is I put a jumper on here to have some flexibility, so I have a good ground to work with here. It makes it a whole lot quicker, and I'm not trying to stick a bunch of stuff on one little flimsy point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up my signal generator. So I'm going to plug my ground here for my signal generator. It's a whole lot easier to work with. And just slide this back here so you can see what I'm doing. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to check that I'm on my frequency. So my frequency is 455 kilohertz. I've set my amplitude to 1 volt peak to peak. Okay, now I'm going to hit my modulation. And modulation is the frequency of 1 kilohertz. Okay, it's a little high pitch, so I'm going to turn it down to about 9, about 800 where I like it. Then I'm going to go to my deviation. I'm going to be 80%, which is considered my depth. And so there we go. So now this is for AM. So what I'm going to do is ultimately I'm going to stick this right here on TP7. If I look at my schematic, TP7 is my test point where my signal is injected into my mixer. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and hook it up. And what I should be listening for, oops, AM frequency. Oh, it helps turn the output on. There we go. Okay. So turn the output on, I can hear I've got a frequency. So I'm getting a signal through from my antenna through each one of these transformers, and that's what you should have. I should have that. Now, what I can, if I don't have a signal here, then I can actually come down and I can actually hit the base of each one of these transistors. And at that point, this one cuts out, and I can actually trace it down. But as long as I have a signal and I can hear this tone, like I said, I can change my frequency, make sure I'm hearing the right tone. I know that each one of these transformers work. Now, in doing so, I'm going to turn this off, turn the output off, and I'm going to disconnect. Now I'm going to show you on the FM side that it works the same way. So FM now, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to go to my frequency. I'm going to change my frequency to 10.7 megahertz. Make sure you don't put millihertz, use megahertz. I did that, didn't work real well. 1 volts peak to peak, I'm going to modulate it. For my frequency, I'm going to do 22.5 kilohertz. Let's see here. Let me just do 800 hertz. And that was my frequency. Let's see here. Oh, modulation frequency is actually 1 kilohertz. What am I thinking? Okay, and my deviation. Oh, hey, wait a minute. There I go. I'm messing up. FM. That helps. Okay. So now we're FM. Now let's try this again. Deviation 22.5 kilohertz, and my frequency. I've got it down to 20 kilohertz. We're going to take it up to about 800 hertz. Okay. Now we're going to take this, going to turn this back on. Hook back in right here by my FM mixer and oscillator. Actually switch it to FM, that'll help. Hit my output. Now it's very, very faint sound. So, but I can hear a tone, and I can tell the tone as I move. I can actually hear my tones. I can chase that tone through each one of these transistors, which tells me that my transformers are working properly. Now, one of the other things I can do, I can hook my meter up, my ground on my meter. I've got my meter on. Turn that output off. Let's see. Got the meter on. Now, one of the things I can do with a meter too, and really good before you start this, is go through and check your voltage values. As I check my voltage value, got this on FM. One of the things I can actually check for. See here, what do we got going on here? Should have. Let's see here, T6. Try that. You know what? I can tell I've got a bad ground here because I'm not getting it. Yeah. Well, that would be a good reason for that. There we go, 9 volts. You need to make sure that you got a good ground. That always helps. Now I can check here at this resistor. I've got 9 volts coming in. Notice I have a voltage drop across this resistor. And then I can go down each of the voltage points. I can also tell that the voltage drops off at specific places where it goes to my transformer, so I can see where that comes in. So that's what I'm checking the voltage. Your meter will load it down and cause it to stop working. So, but you can read a voltage reading. Alright, so let's move on to a broken radio. Turn the power off. Disconnect. Okay. We're going to take this and set it up out here out the way since it works. Now, I've got my radio that I'm troubleshooting. You have about 15 minutes to figure out the problem. So the first thing you do is hook it up to ground. Look up my positive and my negative. Hopefully you've got your bench already set up before you start. Okay, I'm going to turn this on, and I'll start off with the AM. So, turn my AM dial. Hey, AM works. Okay, since AM works, I can move on. I don't need to waste any time checking out the AM. Let's see my FM. You turn my dial, put my antenna up. Let's see. Man, I'm not getting anything. No static, no nothing. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, doing this before I even chase the signal, I'm going to check and make sure I got voltages. So I'm going to go from my FM side of my switch right up to, let's pull this meter back out so you can see it. I'm going to go right back up here to this first resistor, R25. I want to check R25. I've got 9 volts. Okay, well I'm going to come all the way down to this line. I'm going to check at my FM mixer. I've got 7.23. Check at R4. I want to make sure I got voltage all the way down. Okay, I've got voltage all the way down now. So now I'm going to come down here when I want to check and see. I'm going to check each one of my transistors. I want to see, do I have voltage on my collector? Voltage on that collector, voltage on this collector. Because you know a transistor is not very good without voltage at the collector. Voltage on this collector. Voltage on this collector, okay. It's like all my collectors have voltage. So I did those transistors. Now I'm going to go ahead and check, and I want to see if I have any voltage out my base. Okay, I've got 1.6 here, 1.3 here, 3.477. 1.6 here, 1.3 here. That's suspicious. I have no voltage there. And I got 1.3 here. Now I was a little bit suspicious with this transistor here, so let's go back and let's look at this transistor. It looks like that was Q5. Let me make sure. Q5, no voltage on the base. So if I come here, I'm going to find Q5. This is my transistor Q5, and I'm going to say, why don't I have voltage on the base? Well, I'm going to follow it up, follow it around. It goes through my transformer, and then it comes back across, and I get power through R17. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, oh, okay, well, I wonder if I got voltage at R17. So I'm going to come down here to the base of R17. I've got 1.3 volts at R17. Well, it should come from the base of R17. It should come up and it should feed voltage across that transformer. Now that coil, according to my schematic, is a perfectly good coil. It should flow current and have voltage. So I have no voltage here, so this, I'm going to call it, this transformer is bad. The transformer is blown, and that's why I'm not getting the signal through. And I'm going to replace this transformer, and of course, I'm aware already that that's going to repair the radio. It's that simple. I've probably just troubleshot that in probably about 5 minutes, if that, and just sitting down just with my voltages and with this right here. Of course, that solves my transformer. If it cannot do it. Now the other thing is my transformer, the coil could be shorted internally, a bit harder to find, but I can find it by tracing a signal. But that's pretty much the long and short of troubleshooting your radios. So best of luck with you, and you should have no problem to do this in 15 minutes. Good luck. Thank you.